I look at the title on my sermonette, and I wonder, from the title, did I fulfill that objective? Am I speaking about something happy? And I should be speaking about something happy. The title I have on my sermonette is The Last Enemy. And enemies are not something you think about as being happy. But you might look at the first word and say, the last enemy means that, okay, maybe it is a good thing. Maybe it does make us happy when we have the last enemy. In this life, we have enemies. And we can think of many enemies that we may have in this world. We have enemies from secular religions. Those who don't believe in God, they are enemies, aren't they? They want to declare that God doesn't exist. A lot of atheists. And they try to bring court actions to eliminate the mention of any mention of God in society. We have traditional enemies in religion as well. At the present time, one of the most aggressive enemies can be found in the Muslim faith. They are most aggressive, not all of them, but a number of them are quite aggressive against the whole society of the West. So those are enemies we might think about. Trusting in God will bring enemies to us. We, of course, in the world of the nations, also have, and politics also have enemies. We can go back 25 years, and the Soviet Union was our enemy. And if we go back 50 years, I guess, Nazi Germany was our enemy. And Mr. Schultz and Mr. Marlowe were on different sides of the fence in that particular situation. So we have enemies. Do we have a last enemy? And if we do have a last enemy, how do we know that? And who is that last enemy? That's the question I want to put before you in this sermonette. What is our last enemy? And I want to show you that last enemy, what that last enemy is that shall be destroyed. We have an enemy in the spiritual world, don't we? That enemy can be read about 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. Apostle Peter is sagen, be sober, be vigilant. That is, be very careful, watch out. Something that you need to be warned about and worry about. Be sober, be vigilant, because your enemy, your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, goes about seeking whom he may devour. Now that's an allegory. That's a simile. Lions are big, powerful creatures, and you may see them. We've been to the animal safari from time to time up in Canada, and we drive through inside the car, and these big cats are there looking at us, and we're glad that we're in the car and they're out there. At one time we went into the animal park, and we were in the area where the tigers are. And a tiger jumped up in the pickup truck, which was in front of us. There was a truck in front of us. The driver was there in the car. The tiger jumps up in the back of the truck and puts his paws on the back window and starts looking in at the man inside. We came to find out that that tiger was interested in that truck because they bring his food in the truck. The driver was hoping he was not the food. But it says here, be sober, be vigilant. Your adversary, Satan the devil, as a roaring lion, walks about, seeking whom he may devour. Now, he's not looking to devour you as physical food, but he's looking to destroy you from God's family. That's how he looks to destroy us. And we have another example on the news probably 5, 6, 7 years ago of an individual who was conducting a circus act in Las Vegas with a tiger. And the man's name, the trainer, was Roy Horn. The tiger jumped off of his stool and jumped on top of Roy Horn and tried to bite his head off. And they were able to get Roy Horn away from the tiger, but that was a kind of an aggressive thing. That's kind of what is being pictured as Satan the devil here. He is our enemy, looking to devour us. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. With Armin and Angelica, we talked about a few scriptures. They came on, it was Wednesday, wasn't it? Coming? Yeah, on Wednesday. And we talked about a few scriptures around the kitchen table. And we talked about a scripture in 1 Corinthians. I'll probably use that scripture in the sermon. But I'm going to talk about now 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Thumping 5 and 10. It says there, talking about God and Christ, he must reign, that is, rule, be the king, until he has put all enemies under his feet. Talking about God is going to ultimately put all the enemies under his feet. All enemies will come to an end. He will reign until he has done that. And then it tells us who will be the last enemy, or it's not a who, it's what will be the last enemy. The last enemy that shall be destroyed. That's a pretty emphatic statement, isn't it? That enemy will be destroyed. It's not if or when, it is when. It's not if. It definitely will be destroyed. The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. Death. This past week, on Tuesday, Donna's talk, Tuesday, we had a death in the church, and we had a burial, a funeral for the person that died, Dolores Bach. And so that enemy remains. It remains for you, no matter how young you are. Mason's the youngest person here. He still has that enemy. And those of us who are the oldest, I'm kind of getting there myself. That enemy is going to be destroyed by him. Until it is destroyed, we still have that enemy. It is appointed to the Bible tells us, the Scripture tells us, all men wants to die. And afterwards the judgment. So we all know that we will die. None have yet overcome this enemy. The last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. When will that happen? How does it happen? Another scripture, one that we looked at ourselves at our house around the kitchen table. There were lots of interruptions coming and going. I couldn't get the printer to print part of the time. Finally got it to print and brought this printed out to Armin and Angelica so they can read it and they can overcome the language barrier a lot if I give them something that's printed out that they can read. Revelation chapter 21 and verse 3. We have been told the last enemy which shall be overcome is death. That was in 1 Corinthians 15. Revelation 21 verses 3 and 4. John is writing what he heard. I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, look, behold, look at the tabernacle of God is with men. No longer off in a remote place that we can't locate at all, but it is saying that the tabernacle of God is going to be with men at a time in the future. He will dwell with men. God is going to dwell with the men. It's an astounding thing when you think about it, that God is going to come down here to the earth and dwell with men. And they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. Verse 4. God is going to wipe away every tear. There's not going to be any more crying. There's going to be no more death, no more sorrow. There shall not be any more pain. You know, and we all have pain from time to time too, don't we? Armin didn't want to tell us, but he had to have an injection in his back before he left because he was having pain in his back. And making the trip would make it worse. So he had an injection, I presume, of cortisone or something like that, in his back so that he could make the trip. We all have pain. It is saying, God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. There shall be no more death, no more sorrow, no more crying. There will not be any more pain. Now, a couple of times I'll talk about it maybe a little bit before the sermon. We fasted with Armin and Angelica on 3 different occasions over the course of our friendship. Once when they wanted to adopt Armin, which they were able to do. Once with Angelica's cousin Cyprian, who was had a spinal condition where the spine itself was delaminating. And the third one was with an individual by the name of Jan, who had cancer, and 2 years ago now. There's not going to be any more. Those things will pass away. Neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. That's what the Bible is saying. That's what God is saying. Those are wonderful promises. I hope I'm now fulfilling the positive aspect of a sermonette. speaking about something positive to begin the service. The conclusion, we would say, all other enemies will be eliminated first. Before death, Paul tells us that death will be the last enemy to be eliminated. Revelation 21, let's read verses 5, 6, and 7. He that sat on the throne said, John is sitting there viewing this and just wondering how to understand it, I would imagine. He said, he that sat on the throne said, behold, I make all things new. Pretty comprehensive. It's pretty comprehensive. When God says he makes all things new. Right. Write this, right. For these words are faithful and true. What's he supposed to write? I make all things new. But he was just told, he said, write. For these words are faithful and true. He said unto me, it is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give to him that is thirsty. I'll give to him that is thirsty of the fountain of the water of life freely. He that overcomes will inherit all things. I will be his God, and he shall be my son.